and says they got away with it until the judge removes her robe and says, FBI, you're all under arrest. The courtroom buzzed with quiet murmurs as the verdict was read. The three officers, Detective Harris, Sergeant Lowell, and Lieutenant Grant, grinned smugly, exchanging victorious looks. Accused of taking bribes, planting evidence, and intimidating witnesses, they had just been acquitted. The jury, swayed by a lack of hard evidence and a top-tier legal team, ruled in their favour. Outside, protesters cried out for justice. Inside, the so-called untouchables stood tall, confident that once again they'd beaten the system they manipulated for years. The judge, an older woman with sharp eyes and a calm demeanour, gave a slight nod as the courtroom began to clear. But instead of dismissing the court, she stood. I have one more statement to make, she said, her voice cutting through the chatter. Everyone paused. The defence lawyers raised eyebrows. The officers looked at her, confused. In one swift motion, the judge reached behind her neck and unclipped her judicial robe. She let it fall to the floor, revealing a dark suit beneath it. Her hand moved to her chest, pulling out a gold badge. Special Agent Rebecca Mendez, FBI. Her voice was calm, but lethal. This court proceeding was part of a long-term undercover operation. The real judge recused herself 2 weeks ago. Gasps echoed through the room. You three are under arrest for obstruction of justice, conspiracy, racketeering, and dozens of other federal charges. Jury nullification won't save you now. We've been watching you for years. Before the stunned officers could react, a team of agents in plainclothes flooded the courtroom, weapons drawn. The smug grins vanished, their hands shot into the air. Outside, the crowds erupted, not in protest, but in applause. For once, the system had struck back, and this time justice wore a badge under her robe. Would crooked cops mock the victim? Then she pulls out her badge as the new police chief. They sat there, smirking. 4 uniformed officers, known around the precinct as the Wolf Pack, leaned back in their chairs during the disciplinary hearing, treating it like a joke. Their victim, a young rookie named Tessa Blake, stood alone. She had filed a report months earlier accusing them of harassment, theft during raids, and falsifying reports. "Can we wrap this up?" sneered Officer Landon, the group's unofficial leader. "This little girl's wasting department time." Tessa said nothing. She didn't flinch. She just waited patiently as the internal review board mumbled amongst themselves. The board, compromised and reluctant, seemed ready to dismiss the case entirely. Then a voice came through the speakers. "Hold all decisions. New leadership has arrived." All eyes turned to the rear doors of the hearing room as they swung open. A woman in a sharp navy blue suit stepped in, heels clicking confidently on the floor. She had commanding presence, short silver-streaked hair and piercing eyes. "Who the hell is this?" Officer Landon muttered. The woman walked up to the front, reached into her jacket and pulled out a badge. "Chief of Police Cassandra Ward," she said coldly. "Effective today." Gasps filled the room. Landon's smirk cracked. "I've reviewed every one of your cases. Dozens of misconduct reports buried, body cam footage mysteriously corrupted, but we found the backups." She turned to Tessa and gave a nod. "You were right to speak up, and I promise your bravery will not go unanswered." She looked back at the officers. "Officers Landon, Myers, Jacobs, and Rowe, you are hereby suspended without pay, pending full criminal investigation. Internal Affairs will escort you out." Tessa's eyes welled up, but not from fear, from relief. As the crooked cops were led out, their mockery silenced. They passed the new chief. And Tessa. Neither said a word. Officers smirk at sentencing until the prosecutor pulls off her wig. "I'm the FBI director." It was supposed to be an easy win. Officers Dillon, Pratt, and Moreno stood before the judge, charged with accepting bribes to overlook drug trafficking routes. But with a high-powered lawyer, a few scared witnesses recounting their statements, and evidence misplaced, things had gone their way. The sentencing was just a formality. The courtroom whispered about reduced charges and possible parole. The accused chuckled quietly, confident they'd soon be back on the streets. Badges intact, reputations untarnished. The prosecutor, a soft-spoken woman with grey-streaked hair tied in a bun, had barely said more than a few words throughout the trial. Her British accent and old-school style had the defence laughing behind her back. When asked if she had any final remarks before sentencing, she smiled for the first time. Actually, Your Honour, I do. She stepped forward, slowly removing her barrister's wig, revealing a tight earpiece underneath. She reached into her coat, pulling out a badge that gleamed under the courtroom lights. Miranda Graves, Director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Dead silence. Operation Clean Shield has been underway for 2 years. This court was just the final test. Everything has been recorded, tracked, and verified by federal oversight. The real trial begins now. The judge, grinning for the first time all day, nodded. Proceed. Doors burst open. Federal agents swarmed in. The officers' faces drained of colour. Their lawyer slumped in his seat. What they thought was a weak prosecutor turned out to be the highest-ranking agent in the country. As they were handcuffed, Miranda leaned in and said softly, next time you accept dirty money, make sure the prosecutor isn't running the entire agency. Would you like the next witness? But their jaws drop when she says, I run the FBI. It started like any other hearing. A quiet, unassuming woman sat on the witness bench, blazer slightly oversized, hands folded neatly in her lap. Her name, according to court documents, was Sarah Blake, and she was listed as a civilian witness in a corruption case against several senior officers in the city's narcotics division. And the defense didn't even glance at her. She looked harmless, invisible. The accused, Captains Reese and Doran and Lieutenant Shaw, sat confidently with their defense team. They laughed, whispered, and occasionally shot condescending glances towards Sarah. The prosecutor cleared his throat. Miss Blake, can you please explain what you witnessed on the night of March 4th? She stood, adjusted her blazer. What I witnessed, she said slowly. I witnessed a sting operation. One you weren't supposed to see, one you tried to cover up. The room stilled. Captain Reese narrowed his eyes. What's she talking about? Sarah reached into her pocket, pulled out a sleek black case, opened it. A badge gleamed in the courtroom lights. Director Sarah Blake, Federal Bureau of Investigation. And this entire trial has been staged to expose your federal-level crimes. Gasps erupted. Someone in the gallery screamed. The defense attorney stood up, stammering, Objection, what is this? No objections, Sarah said sharply. This courtroom is now under federal jurisdiction. All of you, officers, lawyers, even the court clerk, are being investigated. Some of you are already named in sealed indictments. Doors burst open. Dozens of federal agents poured in, weapons drawn. Reese stood up in panic. This is insane! Sarah stepped down from the stand, walking past him with a calm, cold stare. What's insane, she said, is thinking I was just a witness. Dirty detectives laugh in court until she stands up and declares, I'm with Internal Affairs. The courtroom reeked of arrogance. Detectives Calhoun, Mendez and Riggs, once hailed as the city's finest, stood trial for excessive force, falsified warrants and kickbacks from a private security firm. But today they were confident, even cocky. Their defense was airtight, their lawyer ruthless, and the star witness against them, an unknown woman named Eliza Rowe, looked nervous, small, and out of place. She's just some scared civilian, Calhoun whispered to Riggs. Probably works in a coffee shop. Eliza sat at the witness stand, shoulders slightly hunched, glasses slipping down her nose. She clutched a small notepad, flipping it open as the defense attorney towered over her. So, Miss Rowe, he said with a smirk, you're telling this court that 3 highly decorated detectives fabricated every report in this case and somehow you, an outsider, figured it all out? Eliza didn't respond right away. She simply looked at the judge, then at the jury, then she stood. I'm not an outsider, she said, her voice calm. I've been inside this department for years. She reached under the witness stand and pulled out a sleek black folder. With one smooth motion, she opened it and flipped it toward the judge. Badge, ID. Eliza Rowe, Senior Agent, Internal Affairs Division. The silence in the room was deafening. My team has been investigating Detectives Calhoun, Mendez and Riggs for 18 months. We have documented surveillance, phone taps and 14 sworn testimonies from officers too scared to speak until now. She turned toward the stunned detectives. You didn't just break the law, you stained the badge. And today, this trial, it was never about your innocence. It was about giving you just enough rope to hang yourselves. The judge didn't hesitate. Bailiff, take them into custody. The detectives stood frozen. For once, the smirks were gone. And Eliza, she sat back down, perfectly composed. Justice didn't need to shout. Today, it simply stood up and spoke. Would you like a compilation of these stories?